Hi, I'm Charlie, RevOpsCharlie, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through a bit of discovery that I've been doing, taking a look at some inspiring buyer enablement tools that other tech companies have got on their websites to help their potential buyers learn more about the problem that they are facing. For those of you that have not come across buyer enablement as a concept, it's the idea of helping your buyer to learn a little bit about their business and about the challenges that they're facing before they come close to wanting to buy a solution from you or anyone else. You can search Gartner's pages for buyer enablement, and they provide some fantastic insight here. And they really talk about buyer enablement tools falling into one of these categories. We're thinking about calculators that help people to put in details about their current business and to get an answer about how they should be valuing the challenge they're facing. Diagnostic tools that tell them whereabouts they are on a spectrum. Maybe recommenders or advisors that tell them what to do based on the current situation of their business, or maybe benchmarks that help them to understand where they're sitting compared to their peers. So these are useful tools that help a buyer earlier on in their process. And what I've done is take a look through about 100 different tech companies to see if they have got these kind of tools on their resources section of their website. And where they have got them, then I've pulled together 11 examples that I think you can learn from. The first and probably the OG of this type of content is Hubspot. They provide a huge amount of content to help potential buyers. And you can see here these free tools. They're really aimed at someone who is in their target profile, but it's very much earlier on helping them with parts of their job that have got nothing to do really with buying a CRM or buying a marketing automation tool, but it's helping them with their signatures or coming up with blog ideas. And one of my favorite ones there is their website grader, which even has its own website domain that you go to. You type in your website, you then put in the websites of a number of your closest competitors, and the tool will then go off and then score your website against your competitors and say where they're better than you, where you're better than them. Who doesn't love to see how they compare against their nearest competitors? The next one is 6sense, which is a buyer intent platform. It helps companies to understand which of the target accounts in their segment are the highest priority ones to focus on. And they've got a very tempting proposition here. Learn who's shopping for your business right now. You're just going to fill in a few of your details about your company and the types of customers that you're selling into and the competition that you compete against. And they'll provide you with a tantalizing list of the companies that are looking at that sector right now. Staying in the data space, and Demandbase is another company that provides contact data out to customers. And they provide a range of calculators that allow a potential buyer to put in information about their business and to get an output. A simple example of that is their opportunity calculator, where you can put in some basic information about the number of sales reps you've got, the number of additional ops that they might create each year by having great data, the win rate, the selling price, and to show what that additional value might be. A really simple calculator. You can imagine this being in a really simple Google sheet, but it spits out a nice, easy graphic that someone might put into a slide. Whilst it's very simple, I'm sure it generates some conversation between buyers and sellers from Demandbase about the value of even small incremental increases in the number of opportunities per seller per year. Cognism is another data provider. And if you are in the process of launching into new territories, into new segments, of moving from SMB up into the enterprise, then a common question that you're likely to have is, How big is the total addressable market? What is the value of us moving into this country rather than that country? And so filling in a few fields here about the type of segment that you're selling into, about the country, about the industries that you're selling into, then Cognism will spit out a total addressable market, the number of leads split out by job titles and seniority, split out by industry, split out by country. So useful and valuable information. They then follow up a day or so later with a very tantalizing email that says, thanks for using the calculator. Would you like to have a peek inside it and see 25 free leads? And actually filling in this form then leads you towards getting a call with an SDR. But that SDR is contacting someone who has a realistic interest in finding out about data and the data that Cognism provides. Hubspot is a sales enablement platform helping your sellers to have more effective conversations with their customers by providing with the right content and the right guidance before they pick up the phone or head into that meeting. And they follow the process of a maturity assessment. They've built out a maturity model, and just through asking you 20 or so fairly simple multiple choice questions, it will spit out a scoring of where you are on their maturity model. And this helps you to understand where you are in comparison to your peers, but it also guides some valuable conversation with a rep from Hubspot when they do make that phone call. And it's a little bit of advice here. If you are running these assessment models or maturity model enablement tools, then you want to be sure that when your rep does reach out, not only have they got the results from the customer's assessment to hand, but they're educated enough to talk through that. I saw that you suggested that your customer-facing employees are not able to find these assets. So can you talk to me a little bit about that? It provides a much more educated conversation with the potential buyer. Gong, the leading call recording and intelligence platform, follows that maturity assessment as well. So they're helping their customers to figure out what's your revenue IQ, how far along are you, and how do you compare with your competitors. They also lead you through a small set of questions asking you to think about your own deals that you're doing with your customers, about the teams and how you manage your teams internally, and the market that you're selling into. Now, the key with these types of assessments is that the questions, they need to be easy enough that I can answer it without having to go and find further information. But they should also encourage me to think about problems that I've got with my own way of doing things. So the answering of these questions should really challenge my thinking a bit and have me thinking that, well, if Gong's asking me this, they must have an answer to that question as well. DocuSign, global e-signature company. And you might think, well, how hard can e-signature be? It's just dragging a signature onto a page. But as you get into the legality of contract law in each country, you very quickly realize that it's a lot more complex than you might think. And so as a company that is rolling out e-signatures to improve the buyer experience or the HR onboarding experience or the supplier experience for their third parties, it's important for a company to be able to understand all of the prevailing laws in each country. And DocuSign does a great job of providing you with a very clear, non-legal language for each of the countries around the world. What's the legality of e-signature? How would I roll it out? What's the prevailing law? And it allows people to have educated conversations with their own third parties and their own local legal teams. Clari is in the revenue intelligence space. So they help revenue leaders and RevOps teams to land the company on the number exactly every month and every quarter. But what's the value in doing that? Well, they talk about revenue leakage and the amount of money that is wasted or left on the table by poor forecasting, poor qualification, by selling into the wrong ideal customer profile. And they provide potential buyers with a revenue leak assessment. Fill in a few details over on the left, and we'll spit out a number that tells you that you're leaving potentially $8 million on the table. Now, one of the things to keep in mind with your buyer enablement tools is credibility. How often have you seen a return on investment assessment from an AE that says, if you just buy our product, then you'll have $900 million more revenue at the end of this year? And you think, really? So you just disregard the tool. So it's important to show your workings. And in this example, Clari does that with a little assumptions pop-up where they show the workings and allow you to change some of that in the inputs so that you can really back these numbers up when you're sharing them or when your customer is sharing them internally amongst their buying team. I don't even know how to pronounce this, but Data IQ, they're one of the leading players in AI. They're helping companies to combine their data teams and their business teams to bring AI to life in their daily operations. And one of the things that I like about their enablement tool is this teaser. On the front page, they really show, if you fill in these 12 questions, then you're going to get some snazzy spider graphs, which will allow you to compare yourselves to others. Then we'll provide you with some personalized recommendations for each of the 6 drivers that we've mentioned. And I'd also call out on the right here that you can pause and come back to the survey within 30 days to pick up where you left off. This is the only time that I saw this in any of the research that I did. Now, if you're going to ask people for questions that they might not be the right person that has the answer, then you're going to need them to go away and come back again. And if you do that, you don't want to have to ask them to start again at question 1. So I thought this was a nice tool of really putting themselves in the buyer's mind and going, okay, let's help you to complete the assessment later on. Hiring people around the world is an absolute nightmare. It is very difficult to understand the prevailing employment laws, tax, and payroll issues in each of those countries. And Remote simplifies that for their customers. Now, one of the common questions that a founder or a hiring team might want to know is, well, if I'm going to hire someone in Spain, what's that going to cost me? And how do I build that into my plan? And so for each country around the world, they allow you to put in the specific country, to put in the role, to put in what you want to pay them and in what currency, and very quickly to calculate that if I wanted to pay someone 150,000 euros in Spain, I need to budget at least 18,000 for these mandatory employer costs that are going to go over the top. And that might be taxes, it might be national insurance, it might be pension commitments, and so on. Really useful tool that is bookmarkable, and so I'm going to come back to and share that information with other people in my team. And we're going to wrap up with Rippling, who's also in that HR and employer management perspective. And they look, they've got a tool similar to what we saw for DocuSign around legality, but this is around being an employer of teams around the country, around the world. And so for each of the countries around the world, they've got a lovely page here where you can see how do we classify workers, what permits do we need, an onboarding checklist, what do we need for our offer letters and payroll and background checks. You can imagine how this page gets bookmarked within an HR team and is shared around. I know we want to open up in Spain. Have you seen the legality here? And it becomes a useful tool that keeps rippling in the mind of someone well before they think about becoming a Rippling customer. So there are 11 inspiring buyer enablement tools that I hope will set you on the track to creating your own. Now, I couldn't leave without one bonus one, which is the RevOpsCharlie maturity assessment. Over the course of 22 questions, you will figure out where you sit compared to your competitors and your colleagues in terms of the maturity model for revenue operations. Just go to the RevOpsCharlie website and search for maturity assessment, and you'll get a nice output from that. Now, what do we learn from all of these buyer enablement tools that we have looked at? Number one, they are designed with the buyer in mind. They've got empathy. They're thinking about the persona that is going to come to this tool and what they're trying to do at that time. At that time, they're not looking for solutions. They don't care about your solution, about the problem, or about how your solution is going to solve the problem that they're facing. They just want to deal with a very discrete problem in their own business. That is understanding contract law in each country. That is trying to figure out how much it's going to cost to employ someone in a specific country. That is determining how do they understand the value of the problem that they're facing so they can even start to get a business case together. So we think about the buyer and their problem without worrying about how do we sell to them. Secondly, so many of these tools are embracing the huge amount of data that these companies are already sitting on. They're generating it from their product. They're generating it from their customers. They're generating it from their internal teams that just have to know what's going on in each of these countries in order to build their products. You're sat on this kind of data. So it's just a case of figuring out how do you bucket that up, bundle it up, and distribute it in a useful tool to potential customers. And the third thing that we can see is that these tools are really valuable to the buyer. It's not just a number. You take the Clari example of revenue leakage. It's not just $8 million. Well, what can I do with that? Very little. They then go on to break that down into how's that $8 million made up and how can you use that within your own organization. This makes these tools highly shareable. You're going to get the information from the buyer enablement tool. You're now going to start sharing it amongst the rest of the people in your buyer enablement group. And this is what we want. We want your company name to be on their lips, on the top of their mind, well before they get towards looking for a solution. So that when they do start looking for a solution to this problem, they go, remember that tool that we used? Well, let's definitely have them on our shortlist. So there we go. 11 inspiring buyer enablement tools. I hope that's got the creative juices flowing and you can now start to think about creating your own. If you're having trouble creating them yourself, then I'm always here to help and happy to help clients with building out these excellent tools to help inspire your buyers early on in their journey.